Okay, so you know what's really kind of blown me away recently?
Go on.
This horror film, Sinners, getting an A cinema score. I mean, seriously, an A.
Right.
The last time a horror flick pulled that off was like over 30 years ago. It's basically a unicorn.
It really is. That alone makes you sit up and take notice.
And then you look at Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
And critics. A perfect 100%. And not just, 5 critics. We're talking over 40 reviews giving it 100%.
Yeah, solid consensus there.
So, okay, we obviously have to get into this.
Yeah.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into Sinners, this 2025 horror movie that's, well, definitely got people talking.
It's that contrast, isn't it? That near universal critical acclaim sitting right next to, well, what seems like a more mixed bag from audience reactions you see online sometimes.
Exactly.
And whenever you see that kind of split, it usually means there's something really interesting going on under the hood, worth digging into.
Totally. So let's set the scene. We're in the Mississippi Delta, 1932, a time and place where racial injustice is just baked into everything. The story centers on these twin brothers, Smoke and Stack.
Both played by Michael B. Jordan, which is fascinating in itself.
Right, he plays both. They're coming back home after trying and failing to make a life up north, trying to live among white folks.
A tough reality for many back then.
And their dream, the reason they're back, is to open a juke joint, like a real hub for their community.
That idea of returning south, choosing to build something there despite the danger, that's powerful.
It is.
And the juke joint itself, it's more than just a bar, right? It's a symbol, a space for their culture, their music, their identity to exist in a world trying to crush it.
But, this being a horror film, things don't stay simple.
Naturally.
Their actions, their very presence and ambition, it seems they accidentally wake something up, something old and evil.
The vampiric force.
Yeah, this vampiric force that puts a serious wrench in their plans.
And the director pulling the strings here is Ryan Coogler.
Yes. Mr. Black Panther, Creed, Fruitvale Station. And this is, what, his 5th movie with Michael B. Jordan?
That's right, 5th time. That collaboration, you can tell it's deep. It lets them tackle these really ambitious stories together.
You really feel that history between them on screen, I think.
Definitely. And Coogler, his work so often delves into the Black experience, right? Sinners feels like a continuation, but he's using this horror genre framework, which is different for him in some ways.
And he usually features predominantly Black casts, which is true here too, mostly. But one interesting twist.
The vampires.
Yeah, the vampires are played by Haley Steinfeld and Jack O'Connell, which adds another layer, maybe.
It's a specific choice for sure.
So back to the critics for a second. The praise is just overwhelming. A lot of them are calling it Coogler's best film, his masterpiece even.
High praise indeed.
And technically, get this, filmed with IMAX cameras. Apparently, Coogler wasn't super familiar with IMAX.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he actually went and got advice from Christopher Nolan on how to use them.
Wow, okay, that shows some serious commitment to the craft, doesn't it? Consulting Nolan.
Right. Talk about dedication to the vision.
And choosing IMAX suggests he really wanted this immersive, almost overwhelming sensory experience for the audience to put you in that Mississippi Delta landscape, in that atmosphere.
Makes sense.
And the critics clearly responded to whatever he achieved there. It makes you wonder, what specifically about this mix, the history, the social commentary, the supernatural horror, what hit so hard for them?
Well, it seems like the inspiration was pretty personal for Coogler. He co-wrote it with his wife.
Ah, okay.
And drew on his own childhood memories and, crucially, the influence of blues music. And you're right, the blues isn't just soundtrack here.
No, it feels integral.
Totally woven into the story's DNA.
Yeah.
Coogler's talked about wanting to explore the consequences, the sort of generational weight of the violence and racism Black people faced back then.
Using the vampire story as an allegory, maybe?
Exactly. Using the vampire narrative as this powerful metaphor set against that oppressive backdrop of the 1930s South. And the blues. The blues is like the heartbeat, the voice of survival, of pain, but also resistance.
That makes so much sense. The blues itself carries so much history, so much pain and resilience. Layering that with vampires, it lets you explore historical trauma in a way that maybe a straight historical drama couldn't quite reach. It accesses something deeper, perhaps more primal.
Yeah, it taps into those societal fears and horrors. And it wasn't just critics who felt it. The film did really well financially.
Big numbers.
Huge. Over $290 million worldwide. The budget was somewhere around $90, maybe $100 million.
So a definite hit. Profitable.
Absolutely. Made it one of the highest grossing films of 2025. And it broke some records, too.
Like what?
Biggest opening weekend for an R-rated film that year. And the biggest opening for an original film, not a sequel or franchise, since Jordan Peele's Us back in 2019.
Wow, okay, that's significant, especially for an original R-rated concept. It shows people were really hungry for this, or at least intensely curious. That opening weekend buzz was clearly massive.
It really connected, commercially at least.
Hmm.
So if we try to sort of boil it down, Sinners puts us right in the middle of this intense clash. You've got the brother's dream, the juke joint, building community. Then there's the crushing reality of 1932 Mississippi, the racism. And then you layer on this ancient vampire menace.
A potent mix.
Yeah, it's a digging into identity, the power of music like the blues, and just the sheer horror of the American South at that time, both the real-world kind and the supernatural.
And like we said, while the critics were almost universally on board, online chatter shows, well, different takes. Some people loved the thematic depth, the originality.
Right.
Others maybe felt the pacing was off or it didn't quite deliver the kind of scares they expect from a horror film. Which is fair, people look for different things.
True. That difference is interesting in itself, though. It shows the film is complex, maybe challenges expectations.
Absolutely. And you can't talk about the praise without mentioning the specifics. Coogler's direction, obviously, but also Ludwig Göransson's score.
Oh, yeah. He did Black Panther 2 and Oppenheimer, so
Yeah.
you just know the music is going to be incredible.
Exactly. It adds so much atmosphere and weight. And Haley Steinfeld's performance as one of the vampires that's gotten a lot of attention, too.
I heard comparisons to Zendaya in terms of talent and impact.
High praise again. It's just really strong performances across the board. Oh, and that detail about Michael B. Jordan playing both twins.
Yeah. How did they film the scenes with both of them?
They apparently used a stunt double quite a bit for the shots where Smoke and Stack are physically interacting together.
Makes sense. Must have been complex to shoot.
For sure. And having him play both really leans into themes of duality, brotherhood, maybe internal conflict too.
Good point. So maybe the question for you listening is something like this. Does Sinners, with all this ambition tackling history, racism, music, and being a vampire horror movie, does it succeed because of that ambition? Does it all come together brilliantly?
Or does trying to juggle all those heavy themes, maybe, I don't know, spread it a bit thin in places, does it dilute the impact for some viewers?
Yeah, that's one angle. Or maybe think about it this way. How well does the film actually use the horror genre?
Right.
Considering the 1930s South setting, does introducing vampires effectively shine a light on the real horrors? The horrors of racism, of cultural theft, of violence? Or does the supernatural element distract?
Does the horror illuminate the history, or does the history ground the horror? It's a really interesting dynamic to think about.
Definitely gives you something to chew on after the credits roll.